Hey there, and welcome to the CMMC Compliance Guide Podcast. I'm Austin.
And I'm Brooke.
From Justice IT Consulting, where we help businesses like yours navigate CMMC and NIST 800-171 compliance. We're hired guns getting companies fast-tracked to compliance, but today we're here to give you all the secrets for free, so if you want to tackle it yourself, you're equipped to do so. Let's dive into today's episode and keep your business on track. Today, we're breaking down some important updates and clarifications that came out from the latest CyberAB Town Hall. One of the biggest topics discussed was something that can catch a lot of contractors off guard. When changes to your environment can actually invalidate your assessment. Many companies assume once they pass an assessment or complete a self-assessment, they're good for the next year. But according to CyberAB guidance, certain changes to your environment can trigger the need for a brand new assessment. So in today's episode, we're going to unpack what those changes look like, who's responsible for making those decisions, and what contractors should be paying attention to if they want to avoid compliance surprises. Well, Brooke, how's the new chair treating you?
New chair's great. It's nice and comfy.
Yeah, good. Hopefully it's comfy for the whole episode. We got new chairs because the old ones were just a little rough to sit in after an hour here.
They were. They'd make your rear end numb after a while. So,
yes.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have some nice, comfy chairs.
Yep. So, let us know on the video if they look good. But I'll tell you what, they are comfy.
They are, absolutely.
Well, let's start with a big topic from town hall that you attended. What happens if something changes in an environment that was originally assessed for CMMC? Does a change automatically invalidate that assessment?
No, that doesn't automatically invalidate the assessment, really. It depends on the significance of the change, because what they said was, and it's going to be really hard to nail down and clarify, but I'm sure that's coming. They said if there's a significant change, for instance, to your scope, then that can invalidate your assessment, and you'll have to go back through and do another assessment, which isn't exactly inexpensive. So, I guess the takeaway from the first question here is don't change your environment.
Yeah.
It can grow, but don't change it.
Yeah. Normal move, add changes type things,
Yes.
User come, user goes, stuff like that. Computers come, computers go. Those are in the normal business operations category, I would assume. But, I think what you're saying is, typically something happens, examples are made, and we're pending what, examples are after people have been assessed for a while and changes happen. And for the government or the CyberAB or assessors to start giving us real world examples of people that maybe misclassified what a significant change was.
Exactly.
And what the implication of that is. So, but, I think you probably use your judgment. If it feels like a significant change, you might, consider it a significant change.
Yeah, we'll get into examples probably here in a minute, but yes, if it's the basis is, and they've said this before, there's just been lots of questions about it, and so they're on the town hall. They're trying to help clarify what the DoD has said about significant change. So, if it's a significant change and changes the scope or the boundary, then that can invalidate your assessment. So be very careful.
Yeah, so don't go into assessment having changes planned, 2 months later.
Hey, Mr. Assessor, we're going to completely change our environment 2 months after we get our assessment, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I would not do that.
Yeah. So plan well. Well, that raises another big question, which I think we just touched on, and I know there are no real world working examples, just very public and advertised in the world of CMMC, like some of the False Claims Act we've seen maybe in terms of examples of what qualifies as a significant change. But they did a bit of a looking, into the looking glass kind of look, the CyberAB, and tried to, give some guidelines as to what might amount to a significant change, what qualifies as significant. Can you go through some of the things that they outline that those might be?
Sure. Really the significant changes you're talking about are things like if there's a company merger, if you bring on another company, typically, their systems integrate, systems change, all that kind of fun stuff during a merger. So they specifically call out mergers and acquisitions, right? Doesn't have to change the scope, doesn't have to change the environment, but a lot of times it does. So they specifically called out mergers. Anything that significantly expands the network, or anything that like if you integrate a new network into the scope, that changes your scope, right? If you change MSPs, for instance, if you have an MSP and you change MSPs, that very well could make a significant change. Some of these things don't have to. If it's just the course of normal business, and possibly even, now this is just me spitballing here, but possibly even, just a 1-for-1 change. Like you take one antivirus out and put another one in, and as long as it's all the configurations and everything else is the same, then that's fine. That's like, not exactly like, but seeing as how people are assets, it's kind of like a person leaving and replacing them with another person, right? That's just a 1-for-1 change. Roughly, not everybody's the same, right? But anyway, something like that may not be a significant change, but a lot of times with if you want to upgrade a tool, a cybersecurity tool, you say, I want to get rid of this tool, this, and this tool, and I want to get a tool that does all this combined, right? Because that's what a lot of tools do, is they say, we've added on these new features. Now you can give those other tools the boot, and it's all great and everything, but you got to figure out how that impacts your environment. May not impact it at all. It may fit right into your SSP, maybe a 1-for-1 switch out, and again, they didn't clarify that. That's me spitballing. So, point is though, any significant change that might impact the scope, or anything especially anything you specifically wrote in, anything that the assessor came and assessed you on specifically, that's a really wide-ranging statement too. So I'm trying to narrow this down, but
so if I understand it correctly, a merger or an acquisition might trigger a new assessment if, for example, whenever the new parent company buys, the company tries to roll all the IT infrastructure up into it. Maybe they're certified, maybe they're not. That could look like a significant change, because
I would bet that they absolutely would call that a significant change,
because you're changing your entirety of your enclave or your scope or your network. But maybe in a merger and acquisition where a company has bought, ownership changes, maybe some managerial things, maybe HR, maybe accounting, but largely the IT infrastructure chain remains unchanged, may not trigger an assessment if everything, enclave, scope, IT network wise.
But it also is larger than just IT network. It's the physical scope. Yeah. It's everything, the people, everything else. So cage codes, highest level owner, all that kind of fun stuff. You have to keep in mind what all is gonna change. So if that merger happens, are they just gonna buy the company and let you operate as normal until the next assessment and then make those changes? That would be ideal.
That would be more on the probably not going to be reassessed side, but if you start integrating things, visitor access control, HR, employee screening type things could potentially, anything that's going to be a control or a boundary.
Yeah. So again, really, any significant changes that involve things like mergers and acquisitions, significant network expansion, integrating other networks, changing MSPs. And the reason they call out MSPs and talk about them is because typically if you use an MSP, they're very integrated into the company. So typically when you change out a MSP, that'll probably be a significant change.
Yeah. So if your MSP is, some of them will, may just provide a few standard tool sets that you got some SRMs from that, maybe if they're just, of course, this doesn't always happen, but, if they're almost never happens. But as an example, if they're just providing antivirus for you and you swap out an MSP and just another antivirus, maybe not an assessment.
Right.
But if you have an MSP and they're more of an extension of your enclave or of your scope or of your network, and you're storing a lot of stuff with them, using a lot of their resources, and you want to change MSPs, that might trigger an assessment.
Absolutely would.
So there's a spectrum on all of these. I think
there is, and and it's hard to tell.
Yeah. So, and it remains to be seen. Now, I'm sure there'll be guidance out there eventually. I'm sure people are going to get it wrong, at times. And this is the thing with new things,
right.
is that, standard practice, will, eventually be found.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any other thoughts on significant changes, or do you think we beat that dead horse?
Not on that specific part of it. No, that's. I think we can keep on going down that rabbit hole, but the short of it is they're trying to clarify that for everybody because there's a lot of questions, and they did come up with some clarification, which always leads to more questions. But there is some clarification that we just talked about. So it's no use talking about it all over again because there's not just a whole lot there, except that you need to stay away from significant changes, quote,
Absolutely. It's like looking at a dictionary for the definition of a word and the words in the definition, and you're like,
Right.
So we talked about significant changes and what could, or might very well be in that category. The easier question maybe to answer is what would be a more smaller operational change that would not trigger an assessment?
That would be an insignificant change. Just so
done. Didn't we answer? Just answer.
Right. Just answered it. So, it could be adding more computers, just as a normal course of business, replacing computers, add more computers, add more people, changing people out. All that stuff is accounted for, in the NIST 800-171, right? I mean, it's the ongoing management of that network. So, none of those things would cause the need for a reassessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that we call in the industry, IT industry, move, add changes, so add email, remove an email, change an email to something different. And you could just take that same concept, computer, workstation, phone, tablet, etc. And then a significant change might be more of the project type things, where you're bringing in a new server, or you're swapping out your big tool sets, or moving from GCC high to Prevail or something. Those might project more things that are more along the lines of projects you have to plan out, could fall in the significant category, whereas the operational, people come, people go, computers get upgraded are fine.
You do have to plan. I mean, they're invariably, the business world, cybersecurity world, none of that is static, right? It all changes. Cybersecurity world changes at an amazing pace, right? But you may want to, a couple of years down the road or a year and a half down the road, you may say, you know what, we want to deploy tablets on the floor to automate XYZ process, right? That's great. That in my perspective, that's going to be a significant change. So you got to plan these things and figure, our assessment here is going to be for 3 years, right? And so let's think about the things that may be coming and think of if we want to, pre-plan and set ourselves up for success. Or, is this something we want to look at and we can prep and get ready, build it out, have all our ducks in a row. When it comes time to be reassessed, you can build that in and then get reassessed at that time, something like that, right? But nothing is static. Or your new technologies, new things come out all the time. You want to be more competitive, so you got to take that planning into account and figure that out, or else you'll just be stuck for 3 years exactly like you are, unless you want to, go through another assessment.
Absolutely. All right. So we talked about two ends of the spectrum. Pretty clear what makes up an insignificant change and a significant change. At least it's clear on either side of the spectrum.
Right.
But most things don't fall on one polar opposite end or the
somewhere
other.
in the middle,
right.
And you're going to be stuck going,
Right. Yeah. And someone's gonna have to make that call, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So who makes that call?
Not me.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if it's our environment, I guess that would be me. But so that'd be the OSC, the organization seeking certification. Or I guess at that point they'd be certified. But so that organization, and specifically the affirming official, the one who's in charge, the one who's accountable for everything, they'd be the one that makes that call. What I would say, though, is that don't gloss over it. If you say, oh, yeah, it's not a significant change, just integrate all those tablets and everything else and we'll be good, and we'll just get an assessment when it comes, I would stay away from that because if anything happens and a breach or a whistleblower, something like that, really, when you look at all the False Claims Act, and we've said this before, but the whistleblower is by far the top, where most False Claims Acts start, right? So whether it's a False Claims Act or an actual incident or something like that, and they come in to take a look at your environment and they go, hey, this stuff wasn't in scope and let's change, and you can argue your point, but I would not want to be on the end of arguing that point for a False Claims Act. So I'd be very careful of that. And like I said a while ago, plan accordingly, right? And plan that assessment, plan that rollout, whatever it is, plan it appropriately and I try to build it all out and get it ready to where you can implement it and then get assessed or something like that. So, but to your question, it's the affirming official really of that organization, whoever's in charge, whoever's accountable. That's whose call it is to make that call, but make it right.
Yeah. So I think it's important to just kind of pause for a minute and take a second and, pull back from the details of significant, insignificant, all this fun stuff, and bring up a point that we typically, when we're bringing people through building a compliance program, we typically coach them into trying to make, and ultimately they make whatever decision they want to for their individual business. But we try and counsel them or coach them to make a decision that allows them some room. For example, one that we bring up a lot is picking GCC versus GCC high if they're going to go into a GCC environment.
Absolutely.
One, GCC precludes you from working on stuff like ITAR, no foreign. So, you're going to be stuck in that box for 3 years. So are you sure that you want to be stuck in that box for 3 years, or would you rather, expand your capabilities, go a little bit further, opt for high, so that way you can bid on future work that you don't just foresee in the immediate future right now? Because otherwise, you have to wait 3 years and then make the decision then, and then you may have lost out on contracts in the meantime, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and the same goes for like, enclaves is real popular for people to like, well, I know it may not be a perfect thing for my business flow, but if I can get, only have a little bit of, defense work right now, and if I just buy this enclave and I put everything in there, and it's not a perfect thing, but we can just keep our, our business and just have Bobby. He's in scope and he does enclave stuff. But what happens if you want to change that in 3 years? Then you have to keep that imperfect, workflow that you've created or painted yourself, into a corner in. And, maybe that's good enough for you. Maybe you just want to retain that one contract and that's going to be work. And Bobby's just going to be the COI guy, or something. But if you're wanting to expand that in any meaningful way, or, expand that line of work at all, then, you might want to think, my point is, whenever you're building out your compliance program, you might want to just leave some room for yourselves and not box yourself into a corner too much. So that way you can expand things, and bring on more work, within your 3-year capacity, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said that ultimately it's on the organization, you at home, who's certified or soon to be certified or eventually there to decide whether it's a significant change or not.
Right.
So, but, you had this assessor, this C3PAO, come in and certify you. Can you just offload that burden to them and say, you know what, Mr. Assessor, you tell me?
Well, the simple answer is no. But the longer answer to that is that one, if you use a C3PAO to do your assessment and you like them, then I would probably have a tendency to want to use them again because they've already evaluated your environment once. That said, the capacity of C3PAO market is growing so much. You may be hard pressed to get the same people to assess you within that C3PAO. I don't really know, but
C3, even if you're using the same C3PAO, a lot of them 1099 out their assessors or something.
Yeah.
And so even if you hire the same company, it might be different people coming through the door.
So with that caveat, my tendency would still be to stick with the same company that assessed me, right? So knowing that, or having that in mind, and knowing that C3PAO cannot assess you and do any consulting, then no, I wouldn't ask the C3PAO that certified us. Mm-hmm. But you can ask a C3PAO, a different one, or a CCA or a lead CCA to come give you some guidance, but it's going to be just that. It's going to be guidance. It's going to be consulting. It's going to be their recommendation, but not ironclad proof or ironclad. It won't be an ironclad decision, right? Mm-hmm. It'll just be their opinion, and which may be a very good opinion. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm sure it would be a very good opinion, but there's nothing legally binding there. They'll say if they do make it legally binding, I'd be gigantically surprised, but they're likely to say, hey, here's my recommendation. I recommend that you just keep what you got, keep your powder dry for a year and 9 months, and then do that. But so they may tell you that, but it's just going to be a recommendation, right? But yeah, you can absolutely get a C3PAO to come in. If it was me and I like my assessor and the team, then I definitely would not use them, because you couldn't use them again after that to do another assessment.
So don't, if you want to use the company that assessed you in the first place, don't ask them, because then they went into consulting for you, and now it creates a conflict of interest and they can't do your next assessment.
Right.
That's one.
There also is some question as to whether they would even do that could even or would even do that consulting after they do the assessment. Mm-hmm. So there's that as well. They may not be able to.
Yeah. Fair enough. So likely you're going to be, if you do want an outside opinion and some guidance, you'd be looking at just hiring a CCA, a certified assessor or something to help guide you through that decision. Mm-hmm. But it'd be a bit like hiring a lawyer to give you good sound advice. You may take it, but you may end up in court anyway, right?
Yes, exactly.
So
exactly.
But nonetheless,
I thought you were going to tell me about the expense of hiring.
Oh well,
which may be true too.
I thought that was just assumed. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, it's good to, especially if you're unsure of something, to get maybe someone that can give you good guidance. But at the end of the day, you're in charge and have to make, unfortunately, imperfect decisions on imperfect information.
Absolutely.
Until any more concrete guidance comes out. So that's the unfortunate reality of the situation.
Yes.
Yeah. There is the 3-year anniversary date of your assessment and your certification, which you need to get recertified and reassessed. There is something about annual affirmations. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the first part that is required really is the certification assessment by a C3PAO, right? And that's once every 3 years. Yay, wonderful. Not every year, but along with that comes annual affirmations by the affirming official, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever is accountable, whoever's in charge. And so you do have to affirm annually that you still meet that 110 controls. There's been no significant changes in the whole 9 yards. So you do have to do that. So you are on record saying, I guess that crossing your fingers would be, for luck, but it's a Boy Scout thing anyway. Nevertheless,
you may do both.
I may do both. That's right. So the annual affirmation is, I promise, we haven't made any significant changes. We're still at 110. We still meet all the controls. And so that's what the annual affirmation is. And when you affirm that, you're legally saying, that yes, we're still good. So if you're affirming that, I would make sure there's no significant changes.
So the unfortunate thing is that the certification is not just a full-on, abdication of liability. Like, you get your certification, you're good. It's on the assessing firm, the C3 PAO, until you get certified again. Doesn't work that way. You're still, going to be in hot water if something goes wrong. It's not all about the assessment. You have to keep this up continually, and the government's going to be expecting you to do so.
Yes.
Regardless of certification. Yes,
absolutely. The whole thing is built around all of NIST 800-171 is built around ongoing management and monitoring, and so that this affirmation piece is just another extension of that, is ongoing. Yes, we're covering everything like we're supposed to.
Yeah. So your sleepless nights may not end after certification. So they may just change to other worries.
Exactly.
So we had mentioned that, we have imperfect information right now and guidance on
imperfect information coming from the government. Is that what you're saying? I do not believe that. What?
I've heard other people say it. I'm not saying that. So let me be clear.
Uncle Sam, I'm not saying that. I promise.
No. Yes, we've got imperfect information coming out, and we have some guidance, but it's not perfect. It, of course, would be great if we could get some additional clarification.
But you got to be careful what you wish for, too.
Well, yeah, true. So in the town hall, did they mention anything about any additional clarification on this coming down the pipe at all? Or?
Well, there's nothing concrete, of course. They're not saying by June 1st, we're going to have, some more color. They're not saying that at all, but they do know that it's a huge question. They do realize that it's all but a wide open explanation, right? Mm-hmm. So who decides what's significant, and then they've laid down some examples, like the company mergers, and things like that. So they have laid down some examples, but it's still, that still leads a wide swath of things that could be or could not be a significant change. So they understand that and expect more guidance to come on, down the road some. I would not depend on that guidance to go one way or another, or come very soon, but or be explicit, much more explicit than they already are. Because really, if you think about it, how do you tell people exactly what is a significant change in their network? I mean, of all the clients we have, as standardized as we try to make the networks, they're all a little different, and so to say that they're all not going to change, or to say we're going to do this exactly to everybody, that's a hard nut to crack, right? So it's going to be a hard nut to crack for anybody, the federal government or anybody, to explicitly say what is a significant change. And I know there's people out there saying, "Oh, they can do it. This is what a significant change should be." I guarantee you that's still going to leave questions, guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So people argue the point all they want, and I don't really know that they are, but point is, it's a difficult thing to explain and define. But more definition will be coming. More imperfect information will be coming, I'm sure. So expect that. Just don't expect anything concrete or soon.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Well, Brooke, was there anything else from the town hall that I hadn't mentioned yet today?
Well, there was lots of things from the town hall, but, a lot of the town halls are inside baseball for all the CMMC geeks, like us that that do this stuff day in, day
just
out.
Riveting and exciting.
Just riveting and exciting. Yeah. How many C3POs are there today? And how many lead CCAs are there? Stuff like that. So I don't really remember. I think now that we've created one or two of these episodes, and I guess maybe I'm getting old and I forget these things. I don't really know, but I think we might have mentioned this rule change. Yeah, thank you very much. We might have mentioned this, but in any case, it doesn't necessarily directly affect CMMC, but there's a proposed FAR rule out there, FAR CUI rule. So not DFARS, but FAR, which is the rest of the federal government. Mm-hmm. And really what they're trying to do is coalesce everything behind the CMMC program, maybe not exactly CMMC. I don't really know. It's yet to be seen. But they are coalescing behind CUI and protecting CUI. And so they've made some rule changes that really just align the FAR rules with what's going on with CMMC right now. So, for instance, and I had to pull it up on my phone here because I couldn't remember what it changed to, but for the FAR 52.204-21, just the basic safeguarding rule, the new RFO clause of deviation is FAR 52.240-93. Let's see. There are 7019 was retired. The DFARS 252.204-7019 was retired because it's no longer needed. The DFARS 252.204-7020 is now, and that's the one. That's the one that about the defined CMMC, right? So it is now DFARS 252.240-7997. The 7021, the 252.204-7021 has not been changed. So really those FAR CUI changes or those rule changes are really just meant to bring those FAR rules and all those into alignment, I should say. I was going to say alliance. They're an alliance together, but anyway, just to bring those into alignment really is all that's for. But what I take from that is that something akin to CMMC is coming, for the rest of the federal government. It won't be seen as how the rollout for CMMC has been. I would not expect for as an exact copy of CMMC to be rolled out to the rest of the federal government tomorrow. But something like that is coming for the rest of the federal government, right? So they've said that that's what they wanted to do. The DOD was their testing grounds, mainly because it was so important. Yep. But they want to make everything the same. Want to get everybody on the same page. and treat everything the same, because there's different islands all over the place with the way they treated information and the way they protected information. So they're trying to align those. The other thing, and we've talked about this, I know we've talked about this on one of the last episodes, but is paper CUI. So if you have just paper CUI, or if you have just paper CUI, you don't store it electronically anywhere, you don't transmit it or electronically anywhere or anything, you literally actually really I don't know how many reallys I can say, but you get it just via paper. Now there are protections for that, but if it's just paper, you're not subject to CUI rules. So you're not subject to CMMC level 2 certifications, I should say, is what you're not subject to. So because it's a piece of paper, it's not electronic. So CMMC level 2 would not apply. The whole of the level 2 would not apply, right? So those are really the other ones. Everything else with Town Hall was pretty much just inside baseball stuff. It's very interesting, good for us to know and take note of, but nothing really of giant interest for OSCs.
Well, I appreciate it, Brooke. What would you say the biggest takeaway from the Town Hall was?
Well, it'd have to be the whole significant change thing, what most of our podcast was about today. And that is, stay away from any significant changes, plan for the future when you're planning to go through this and get that assessment, make sure that you have yourself set up to be able to take care of future business needs as much as you can. I mean, you can't see everything, right? But you gotta take that into account. So you don't have any big significant changes. And if you do have a big significant change, go through another assessment. It's just money.
Yeah.
And time. I should say definitely time.
So you'd consider that takeaway significant?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, we got an answer on something.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we had a listener question we wanted to respond to real quick before we close out. The listener question was about something I think a lot of people are running into right now, especially at level 1. We keep seeing level 1 pop up.
I know it pops up more and more, doesn't it?
Yep. I think you're seeing a lot of people, subcontractors, seeing the trickle down of level 1. I think that's why we're hearing a lot about it right now. Donald Binkley said, you mentioned FCI a few times. It's been a big concern of his. COI tends to be easier to recognize because it is marked sometimes, but FCI isn't always labeled. There doesn't seem to be a clear marking requirement, so it feels like you just have to know what it is to protect it. Is there any guidance on how to properly identify FCI? And when it comes to CMMC Level 1 and FAR 52, 204, 21, are you expected to follow FCI through your environment the same way you would with CUI? You want to take the first whack at that?
Sure. So, Donald, thanks for the question. And, welcome to the world of CMMC. But FCI, and I'd like to say also, if you're getting CUI that's marked, that's great. Most of our clients hardly get any CUI that's marked, and what they get marked is generally not marked properly. So that's something that everybody fights, right? And that the federal government knows and they're trying to fix. But about FCI is federal contract information. That's any information about the contract that is not public. So, for instance, if it's not, if you have to log in and see it, that information, then that's going to be FCI. And that's what we tell our clients, right? If it's publicly available information, then that part is not FCI, right? But anything about that is not public information is FCI. And that's the clearest answer I can give you, other than the actual lawful definition of it. But it's, things aren't going to be marked as FCI. It's just going to be that contract information, right? And that's going to be that's going to be FCI for you, the stuff that's non-public. So the question as to whether you follow it through your environment, you have to protect it. You have to have authorized access to it. We can go through the 15 or 17 controls, depending on how you look at it. We can go through those controls, and we actually did a couple of segments ago. I think everything that I've referred to on the podcast was a couple of podcasts ago. So
right,
it might not be a couple, but we do have a podcast specifically about level 1 because we've gotten so many questions about level 1. But yes, it is hard. But really, it's a lot simpler, really, than CUI is. So anything about that contract, if it's not CUI, anything about that contract that is not publicly available, that is going to be considered FCI, and it has to be protected as such against those 15 controls or 17, however you look at them.
Yeah, and we've got a level 1 guide coming out that's pretty decently comprehensive, depending on how you look at it. It kind of walks through the main issues, types of evidence, and the stuff that you need. It's mainly around the risk of attesting to level 1 if you haven't done the certain things that you're legally obligated to do. But it kind of walks you through, tangentially some of this other stuff he's mentioning. The way we typically look, and we'll try and comment under his comment whenever we get that done. If we can remember, we'll when we're done with it, so that way you can find it, download it. It's going to be a free resource we put out there. But the way we typically think of FCI is it's generally going to be any type of invoicing information, like you said, anything in performance of that contract or information you got from them or maybe even created as a result of that. And so it's going to be a lot of the information in a lot of the data in any information system you have. So if it's QuickBooks, if it's your email, if it's your computer, if it's, any system, computer, or cloud application that you have access to, and you're generating data or downloading and storing it in there, it's and you do federal contracting stuff, you're probably going to have FCI in most of those things. Mm-hmm. And so the best thing to do is take those 17 or 15, depending on how you're looking at it, controls, and all of those systems that you are touching and using, you need to apply those controls against it and then have evidence for it. So, for example, if you're using QuickBooks, you would need to turn on multi-factor authentication, right? It's one of the controls. There's some other controls. You have to have unique logins to things. You can't just have shared accounts accessing things. So they're easier to accomplish. It's not, all 110, 320 subjectives. It's it oftentimes is what is considered basic cybersecurity hygiene, but mainly you have to document it. The breadth of your protection of FCI, and then have the evidence that it is protected. So yes. It's a lower bar to entry, and we'll release that guide. I think that'll answer some of the questions, and we may not have answered all of them here, but hopefully that was helpful, Donald. Thank you for your question.
The rule that Donald referenced, the 52.204-21, tells you what it is as much as you can know, right? Information not intended for public release that is provided by or generated for the government under a contract to develop or deliver a product or service to the government, but not including information provided by the government to the public, such as on public websites, or simple transactional information such as necessary to process payments. Right. So, if you're just running just a straight invoice, through the government through QuickBooks for them to pay on, and that may not be FCI, but that is the definition. That is what they call FCI. Right. So it's information on that contract that's not intended for public release.
Mm-hmm.
So, and public release to them means not on a public website. And to me, I take it that that's something that you don't have to log into, right? So if a person's name is on a public website somewhere, on a directory or something like that, then I would imagine that that's not FCI,
Mm-hmm.
But it's that's about as specific really as you can get. It's not going to be marked, and they're they're having a hard enough time marking CUI. So I hope that helps out a little bit. That guide that you're talking about will definitely help out. We'll get that posted. But yeah, and FCI is not nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do have to protect it, and you do have to have your documentation and your evidence. So don't just phone that one in.
Mm-hmm.
I would not want to get in trouble for that either. So
yeah. I mean, and the definition alone, pretty much lends itself to be anything is assigned FCI, right? I mean, if it's not in a newspaper, on a public social media account, or like on a public website, if you can't find it explicitly in one of those arenas, then by the example that they gave you, it's FCI. Right. So if you talk to them on the phone, you learned it. If you got a PO, all those things, FCI. You just have to assume by the definition they gave you. So, it's unfortunately, you can just assume it's everything, for the most part. So, or just start there, right?
Right. Generally, a good practice, just for an example, a good practice for your network is to have a CUI enclave,
mm-hmm.
and then build the rest of your network to your CUI enclave
mm-hmm.
is going to be level 2, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of your network you're going to build to level 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that doesn't really help with the definition or how to identify it, but those are basic safeguards that you should take into account. You just got to make sure that that it's documented and that you have evidence.
Yeah, that is the real gotcha, is the evidence and the documentation of it. I mean, it's the main thing that's going to get you in trouble. So,
or keep you out of trouble.
Well, which is way more important.
If you have your document, you say, yes, we're doing these things. Here's our evidence. Here's our,
mm-hmm.
Here's our policy or policies, whatever, and we were doing everything right. And the federal government come look and say, yep, this was just an unfortunate incident. I guess you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the best thing if an incident or a whistleblower happened, but yeah, it's not, level 1 is not nothing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brooke, for helping guide us through that. And Donald, hopefully we answered your question. If there's any additional questions that we created out of that answer, or something that we missed or didn't address, please hit us up again. We love listener questions, and we're happy to try and answer them as best we can.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Awesome. Well, I think that's it today, Brooke, and everyone. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions about what we covered, please reach out to us. We're here to help fast track your compliance journey. Text, email, or call in your questions, and we'll answer them for free here on the podcast. You can find our contact information at CMMC Compliance Guide.com. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, stay compliant, stay secure, and make sure to subscribe.